When it comes to marketing, everyone has big plans, and there are tons of materials out there that can teach you how to build an amazing strategy. You can hire consultants who had done it before and they know how to do it, and they can teach you this is the right strategy for you. But where everyone faces a lot of its challenges is execution. This is the main challenge that make a difference between someone growing and not growing. And the best place to learn about executing marketing campaigns or marketing strategy is e-commerce. That's why I invited the right person today to learn from the e-commerce world. But before I introduce her, I want to start with a question that pretty much define what we are speaking about today, which is marketing operations. So, Petra, what is marketing operations?
Well, I've read a nice parallel about the marketing operation. So each marketing team or the marketing boat has its captain, but it also needs its steerman to guide the boat to the home port safely on time with all the people and all the goods. So I would say this is nicely describing what marketing operation is. It's basically delivering on time and on the required quality all the activities that have been planned, overlooking the processes, the rollout of the activities to other markets if you are available on other markets, and connecting the worlds, connecting the stakeholders and the people.
That's a really nice definition, like the steerman or steerwoman in that case. And what do you think? At what size or what stage of the company we should have a dedicated person or even a dedicated team to manage marketing operations?
I wouldn't say there's a specific stage or size that you need a marketing operations person or a team. I would say it's really connected to the roles you have in the team and basically what the marketing director needs to focus on. So, what are his needs? Of course, it helps when there are bigger teams. So, I would say if you're like 30 plus people, it already makes sense to have a operations role incorporated.
And do you think this is more specific to the e-commerce industry?
Actually, not. Maybe because of the size, because in e-commerce you have bigger teams. But actually spoke to a friend of mine who works in FMCG and beverages sector, and they have operations person on the marketing board as well. But of course, the scope of the role differs. So I would say that is specific maybe to each company how the role looks like.
Mhm. So I assume like if you have a smaller team, most probably you are still managing the marketing operation, just you don't have a specific person who's doing that.
I believe you always manage the marketing operations, but without that, you cannot actually function. But it can be divided among your standard team, or you can have a dedicated person who's overlooking this agenda.
Mhm. All right. So that's what we'll be doing today, trying to uh, define or give a framework or how can you manage your marketing operations regardless of your team size, whether you are one man show or you are 100 people. And the reason I said like I believe I have the right person today is we have Petra Kotalová, who is the head of marketing operations at MallGroup, and at the same time right now she's also the deputy marketing director. She has been with MallGroup for almost 5 years, and I think maybe it's a good start to just explain to the people listening how big is MallGroup and who actually are you targeting with the marketing campaigns.
Mhm. So Mall Group consists of multiple e-shops. It's the Mall CZ brand and its local verticals. Also CZC, which is a specialist in consumer electronics, and Vivantes, which focuses on health and beauty and accessories. I work for Mall CZ and its verticals, and we operate in 6 markets in the Central and Eastern Europe. The size of the team, it's let's say 60 plus marketeers, so it's quite a big team. Um, which is not so typical for other companies. And based on the data from March 2021, the GMV was 930 million euros. So it's quite big. It's number 2 on the Czech market after like number 1 Alza.
May I ask how big is the marketing operations team?
So at the moment, it's 3 people, me and 2 others.
Understood. All right. So today we're not speaking about planning or building a strategy, but let's assume you already have a strategy. You already have big ideas. You have plans. You have the budget, but now you need to execute, right? And based on your experience, and as I said, we're speaking about e-commerce, and you have in e-commerce you have a very complex marketing structure, especially for a case like MallGroup, where you actually have 2 different target audiences. So you are targeting the buyers, and you're also targeting the sellers. You have seasonal campaigns. You have thousands of, or if not millions of SKUs, like products that you are selling. So if you are managing all of that, and you need some framework to manage all of these campaigns, in your experience, what would be the first step that someone should start with?
So yeah, as you said, it's a really complex world. You're like communicating on multiple levels, on the segment level, on the company level, on the brand level, even like the vendor level, and then you have 2 million plus SKUs. So you need to connect that somehow. So and in order to do so, you need to share a common message or use distinctive assets to connect the assets visually. For example, we do it via the elephant, so the hero, Molvin, which helps to connect the assets across all of the communication. So that's for sure step 1, connect it. So you ensure full reach, and you build the awareness with this like repetitive asset in the minds of the consumers.
Do you have like specific tools that help you to like connect all these activities or all these assets together?
So there are multiple tools. I wouldn't say that only tools save the world. It's also about like sharing information across teams, so they need to be synchronized. But from the toolkit, I would say it's the brand guidelines. So we have certain guidelines how the assets should look like visually. And then you also have like alignment across teams. So when they come up with activities, they serve a common purpose and a common goal.
I even face this challenge sometimes that, hey, we need to create a new campaign and we need some visuals, but in reality you already have this visual. It's just not organized. You don't have one place where you have all these assets, and you have guidelines how to use these assets. So I think this is definitely a very important step when you are managing any marketing operation, how big or small. Once you have done that, what would be your next step?
So you need to structure the activities, because imagine that you have hundreds of activities per year, and you only have a team of a certain size. So you need to create a structure. Ideally, create different types of campaigns. So look at it as a pyramid. So at the top you have like a big, long-term activities, and then below that you can have like short-term, more targeted tactical campaigns, communicating to the different like segments or the different target groups, like mothers or people looking for consumer electronics. So you need to create a structure, and then you need to or I recommend to create like one central campaign roadmap. So this is like really the alpha omega, which you fill in, you keep it updated, and everybody that needs to have access to it has access to it, and reflects upon it. So that's what you then drive your execution based on this one roadmap.
You mentioned to me before the idea of the pyramid top-down structure. How is this built?
So you have an overarching like campaign, which is usually seasonal. So there's no surprise that for the main season, Christmas and Black Friday, these are the main topics. And then you look at like what categories are seasonal, for example, for spring and autumn. That would be like DIY. And you give a proposition or a benefit to this campaign, or you can use like a long-term proposition of the company, which can be the widest selection, it can be prices, it can be whatever message suits the company and reflects upon the consumer's mind. And below it, you need to support also like different segments. So you come up with campaigns that reflect on the different segments, and then you go one step lower, and you can have these like repetitive activities, such as in our case we have weekend deals or we have like brand weeks, which guides us to like the another step, which is to standardize. So basically, when you create the structure and you have the plan, you can standardize each activity. So basically, when it's repetitive on a weekly basis, you give it like a standard media package. So then it makes your operations more effective, and you don't have to think every week, how do we support this campaign? You just have a standard package that supports it, and yeah, you buy it like on an annual basis, and it makes the things much easier.
This is definitely a very good 2 points that we combine together. So building the structure, and I like how you describe it in splitting it at least at the beginning into two sections: the long term one, and the repetitive one, and then the short term campaigns. And once you have it structured, and then also like as segments, target audience, you can then standardize each one of them. And I assume what will come next is automating that.
So it's good to automate like repetitive activities, because like nobody likes these kind of jobs, right? And it helps you to create scale. Also, you need automated tools. So when you run campaigns, you need campaign reporting. So for that, for sure, you need a tool that shows you like daily improvements of the campaigns. For example, for the campaign reporting, what we did, we created like a structure of campaign IDs. So each of our campaigns has a unique name, like an ID, which goes into the system and then is connected for all of the reporting purposes.
Do you have other tools that you are using for automation as well?
Yes, like not in campaign management, but our performance team is heavily dependent on automation, because it's such a scale that you're running, it would be not manageable by only the people. So in paid performance marketing, that's something that's heavily automated and should be heavily automated.
All right, and I think I would definitely like to dive deep a little bit into the reporting side, since this is where I come from. Speak about data do. So how does your reporting structure looks like, or your data structure looks like, let's say?
I would say there's space for improvement.
There is always is.
We have a lot of data available. The matter is how we use the data. So yeah, it's sometimes more difficult to find the ways to read the data correctly, because you have this really a lot of data, but you don't have such good like reporting structures. Because, for example, when I described the campaign IDs, it's a manual process. So at the beginning, somebody needs to create the ID. It doesn't get connected automatically. So if you do, for example, a mistake in it, then you carry on the mistake like throughout the whole process.
Yeah.
Also, you need to, for example, fill in the campaign ID in the UTM. And if you fill it like not correctly, again, you don't get the data.
Yeah.
So it's quite manually like or person dependent process, which then of course reflects on the data quality.
We standardized our campaigns. We are automating some of the processes. What do we do after that?
For sure, we should set clear processes and the roles for the people. For example, can be one of the campaigns that we run, Mall Days. It's quite, like, from the outside it might seem that it's easy to prepare, but it's quite a lengthy process to get there, and it doesn't incorporate only like marketing stakeholders, but also stakeholders from like back office and other teams. So it's very important to have a clear idea, like who does what and when and what consequences, and what are their roles, for in order to make sure that actually the campaign comes out correctly, not only for the customer, from the customer point of view, but also for the business point of view.
I feel like there's a lot of the steps that you are describing are more of creating a guideline. So I assume like this clear process and these roles, you have all of that written down.
Yeah, we write it down. We try not to create like too lengthy processes, so nobody wants to read 20 pages. Me myself, I like to visualize it, so I try to use some interactive tools to create like the steps of the processes for for it to be really easy to read for the people. Sometimes you need to put a bit more detail, because also you need to think of it that you have some change of people on the roles.
Yeah.
So you need to keep the people understanding the process, even when they don't have like the previous knowledge or previous experience. So it needs to be easy to read, but still keep a certain level of detail. And you need to get back to the processes in time. So on some regular basis, you should revise them, and make sure that they're still valid, and that the roles are still valid and it all makes sense.
Once we have all that clear, uh, what comes after that?
Again, you need to prioritize. You only have limited resources, limited like capacity of the teams. Also, you have like certain amount of activities you can maybe show on the homepage, so you cannot like show 20, right? You have limited budget, so you need to think what activities bring the best result, based on the goals that you have. Because like on a daily basis there would be people coming in asking like, oh, I just want a banner here, I want a banner there, and you need to like explain and educate them that it won't bring anything in the big picture. So prioritization is a big thing of executing properly as well, I believe.
That will definitely take us back to the idea of reporting. So like if you have the proper reporting, you can better prioritize based on that.
The nice thing about processes, especially in like e-commerce, is one thing affects the other. So even when you look at marketing, marketing is not like a separate thing in the e-commerce world. You market the people, but then you have also delivery and like customer service, etc., etc., and it all creates like the customer journey. So I see the processes within marketing similar.
And I think maybe I will come to like a challenging question here, which is, as you said, like someone will need to make a decision about this prioritization, right? So who usually makes that decision? Does it come from the marketing operations team?
No, no. This is the agenda of the head of marketing acquisition. So yeah, so it's basically his decision, but we approach it in the way that we try to have discussions, open discussions about it, and decide as a team what makes sense. Of course, sometimes somebody needs to be the one person making the decision, but yeah, that's the head of the acquisition team, and also good to think like out of the box and like get inspired what works somewhere else, maybe in like a different field, um, because otherwise you cannot come up with like some new ideas that can enrich your plan. Because what is typical for e-commerce, it's you get into these cycles, right? Because the year has like 4 seasons. You're always going to have a Black Friday, you're always going to have Christmas, so it's kind of hard to come up with something new that can like be attractive for the customer, because they get, marketed by the same activities on and on and on. And also for the team, it can get repetitive. So it's good to think outside the box and like get inspired, even in the world, what they are doing. So maybe scan like what is the competition in Asia or in America doing, and then bring these ideas back into the planning as well.
I think this is actually a very interesting point, the idea of looking at other markets, because of course you don't want to copy your competitors, right? But you can definitely get inspiration from similar business, similar products in other markets, and there are tons of them out there that we can definitely learn from.
And maybe a good example for that is actually Singles Day. So Singles Day 3-4 years ago, nobody would celebrate in the Czech Republic, right? It would be purely Asian thing to do. But then Czech market or the Czech e-shops also started to use Singles Day as an occasion to market the people, and I believe it's growing its attractivity actually.
We are trying to be more creative, find ways for inspiration, so we can actually be more attractive to the customer. What will be your next advice?
You need to remember it's not a one-man show. I mentioned 60 plus marketers, hundreds of campaigns. So you're working on it with a huge team. We actually produce most of the assets internally, so we don't have external agencies, as for some exceptions, of course. But you have this like huge number of people who are part of the whole like production process or like the preparation process. So you need to think about that people need to be informed, and you need to keep the teams aligned, because they're often like working on multiple activities at once. So also creating this some like information flow structure which feels natural to them. They're not like overwhelmed with information or meetings, etc., but still are aligned, is also very important. So that would be my next step.
The important thing is that it's not only just the marketing team, right? You are working with the rest of the company, whether it's gonna be sales, whether it's gonna be branding, whether it's gonna be technical team. Everything you do is connected with the whole company, and you need to, as you said, share the information. Everyone knows what is going on. I think one typical mistake, again, if we speak a little bit from the B2B world, that the marketing team will go on and launch some campaigns, and then we start getting a lot of leads, but the sales team were not prepared for that. They didn't know that we actually launched a marketing campaign. So it's a typical mistake, and comes just from the pressure. You have a lot of pressure, you need to deliver, so you forget about informing everyone else, whether it is inside the marketing team or outside of it. Continuing on that side, the idea of partnering. So you partner as a marketer. I always say that you need to have a good relationship with every department in the company. You're gonna need tech team a lot for all your activities. You're gonna need the sales team a lot, and I assume you also need external partners. So how do you deal with that?
Yes, so we partner up actively with external partners, especially for the big campaigns. And together we actually come up with like a proposition that makes sense and it's beneficial for both sides. So it can be some packages for some magazines. It can be a contest that you come up with the partner with. And yeah, I would say these types of campaigns are very attractive and popular among people.
I think we almost covered the whole framework here. Maybe something I will ask about is some mistakes that you have done in the past, and maybe you advise other people not to do. And again, I would repeat that you don't have to have a marketing operation team. Again, marketing operation is not a team. It's a process. So whether a person is gonna take care of it or the whole team is gonna take care of it. So when it comes to marketing operations, what are some of the mistakes that you see happening a lot?
If you're launching a big campaign, always test. And test not once, test multiple times. And even if you test multiple times, be ready that something's going to go bad. So then you should be have good partners with, especially the R&D team. They can save you at multiple times. I think a good point that you actually raised is having the partners across the company. That is something that's important for marketing operations, because you're connecting like different stakeholders together. Often you're running projects which are cross-functional, and you need people's buy-in and like people's help to deliver that, and it helps to have these partnerships created.
Petra Kotalová, thank you very much for coming for Prague Marketing Meetup, and hopefully we will have you again and learn from you more. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for inviting me.